front, real estate would continue to grow from 10-11% of GDP to probably 13-14% of GDP. So if India is growing, urbanization is happening, right? Real estate itself would become $1 trillion industry by 2030. India needs close to 100 million new houses, right, to be built every year. India hardly builds 5 million. Now, coming to Square Yards, we are at a vantage point where we are the largest player in one of the largest sectors of the economy, right? In one of the largest economies of the world, right?
Welcome our RealE audience. Today we have with us Vivek Agarwal. He's the CTO of Squareyards and propel. Squareyards is India's leading property tech startup disrupting consumer home ownership journey across home buying, mortgage, home interiors, and property management. propel is an award-winning company specializing in real estate visualizations and 3D applications. Vivek brings over 20 plus years of rich experience. He has worked with Intel, Nokia, and Accenture prior to finding his calling in entrepreneurship. He holds an MBA from IIM Mumbai and a BTech from JC Bose University of Science and Technology. So, welcome Vivek once again to this show. Anupam and I are very fortunate and privileged to have you here. I think we'll dive right in for our audience, Vivek. We would love to hear about your backstory in your own words. So, take us back in time. And how did you become an entrepreneur and how did Squareyards happen?
You'll have to go probably 20 years back when I graduated from NITI. So I joined Intel in their supply chain, worked there for close to 3 years. Then I moved back to Delhi. I joined HCL Tech, and then I did a few projects with Nokia as an independent consultant. So in 2009, I did my first startup. It was into after sales service and repair solutions. At that time, Nokia was at its peak, and we became the vendors for Nokia, Apple, Samsung, so on and so forth. That for close to 3 years, and then I had to move out. My co-founder was still running that, so I joined corporate again. I joined Accenture in their management consulting team. But once the bug of entrepreneurship bites you, you want to start again. So, so in 2014, I took a plunge again in the world of entrepreneurship. I started a real estate B2C website called as realizing.in, which got later merged into Squareyards. So Squareyards and Realizing, they started at the same time, almost at the same time. And I joined as a co-founder and CTO of Squareyards. Fast forward to almost 8 years now. We are by far the largest prop tech player in the country. We have close to 7,000 employees in countries. We are into multiple segments of real estate consumer journey, starting from home buying, to mortgage, to interiors, property management, so on and so forth. And on the way, we acquired a few companies in the data and VR space, where I'm personally focusing my energies on.
Understood. Very, very, very encouraging. And I think there was a very systematic transformation that happened on the way. And very rightly said that once you enter into the realm of entrepreneurship, it is something that you always want to go back to that space. So Vivek, moving and understanding a little more about Squareyards. Tell us a little more about the company and its business model.
Squareyards started as a real estate transaction platform, right? See, real estate tech or real estate space is divided broadly into two major categories, right? So there are companies who are doing search and discovery. They are like the incumbents, which you would have heard of, like 99 Acres, Magic Bricks. So when we started Squareyards, we were always very clear that that's a space which has very less monetization potential. In India, no one wants to pay for listings and search and all those things, right? So the real monetization happens in transactions, which is the last leg of fulfillment, right? So once you do your search, right, you have to close that transaction. You have to take a home loan, right? You have to do lot many things, right?
Right.
On visit. So our monetization happens through that. Although we have become a large search and discovery player also, like we are among the top 5 players in terms of traffic. Close to 8 million visitors a month visit our portal every month. But our monetization happens when we actually do the last leg of fulfillment and close. Right? Idea is that, see, real estate, unlike e-commerce or any other sort, right? It's a high volume, high value,
Ticket size,
high value, low volume, but high involvement kind of product, right? When you acquire a customer, right, it's a 20-year cycle, right? The same customer who takes a house on rent, right? He would someday buy,
right?
and he would someday sell his house. He would take home loans. He will switch his home loans. He will get into a new house. So our cost of customer acquisition across all of these, because once we acquire a customer, we engage him through a dedicated relationship managers and through tech and various interventions, right? So our vision is to become a one-stop shop for everything real estate.
Is
Yes.
the model B2C? Is there also a B2B element in it?
The model is B2B2C, right? For real estate and mortgage, right? So we sell, let's say we are selling a Lodha house or a DLF house, right? So we don't charge the consumer.
Okay.
We charge the developer. Similarly, for mortgage and home loans, we charge the bank and not the customer.
Okay.
Some of these are B2C, like our rentals and property management is purely B2C. Interiors is also B2C. So different types of business models in different verticals.
So also, since there are a lot of newer prop tech startups, we keep hearing that there, and we are also reading about that there are 6% registered startups under DPIIT and around 1,400 in numbers in the prop tech space, right? So there are a lot of known players now in market like Magic, Live Space, to name a few. What unique value does Squareyards bring to the market?
First is there are a lot, as I said, there are a lot many players,
Right.
but not everyone is doing the last leg of fulfillment, which is the hardest part of this value chain, right? Most of the players, they are just acting as listings and classified players. They connect an agent with the customer and they come out, right? So that's what differentiates Squareyards from most of the prop tech players. So it's not just a tech play, right? It's a combination of online and offline hybrid model, right?
Correct.
The second is we are probably one of the only player which has the most innovative tech, plus which has uh, a large field force which uses this tech to make the process smoother for the clients, right?
Okay.
The agent becomes a conduit, right? And uses technology to maybe, like, if you want to get a home loan, then get your civil report and integrate it directly with the banks to get the sanctions digitally, right? Or in terms of transactions, how do we enable e-payments, e-signatures, right? Getting the inventory online. And I'll talk about
Right.
VR in the later part, right? How
Sure.
Prop VR is helping us in digitizing this whole transaction piece, right? So I think that is very unique about us, and very few companies globally, not only in India, among the prop tech, has this combination of tech plus plus sales capability.
And I think this industry, Vivek, has traditionally been very resistant to technology, right? Largely manual processes, very resistant to change. So maybe help us decode the tech element in PropTech. How much of technology plays a role? You touched upon it a little bit, but if you could take us through the consumer buying journey and where all tech interventions happen, and especially where all Squareyards has been implementing some of those interventions.
So as you said, Rinku, so this is probably the last frontier where the tech has not been able to capture the entire value chain, right? US being the most advanced and developed tech countries, 95% of the transactions still happen through agents offline. Okay. So if you look at the whole consumer journey, so the consumer journey starts from search and discovery. Search and discovery has moved online. So after, let's say, you shortlist a few options or you like a few houses, right? What happens that? So you would want to visit them, right? So invariably the journey moves offline. See, for high value transactions like buying, people still want to visit. right? But for renting and all, if you have like shortlisted 10 options, you can't visit 10, right? It would take an entire maybe 2 or 3 weeks to visit all the options and then
Right.
do the hassles and all. So tech is doing an intervention in form of the virtual tools, VR, and how do we visualize, right? So have started making some inroads, but still mostly offline, right? Then once you decide to purchase, right? So then there is involvement of token fees or advance amount, right? So there are tech tools like escrow uh,
Mm.
mechanism which are coming into picture. Then you have to make payments. You have to digitally, you have to sign the agreements, right?
Mm.
So what we have seen after COVID is that this part has actually taken off, right? People are now more comfortable doing e-payments, right? This is like you have purchased a house or you have rented a house, right? Then after that, you would want to someone to like if you are not living in that house or you have rented, the owner wants to manage the property, right?
Mm.
Tech has made great interventions there where on a mobile app you can actually do your rent payments, you can do service and repair requests, all the facility management part of these, right?
Mm.
And then if you want to do interior, so you can virtually design your house, sit with the so if you look at all of these pieces of value chain except for the first, which is search
Mm.
and discovery, most of the part still happens offline, right?
Mm.
I think tech has started making some inroads, but it would take time. Where you could visualize like if you go to a e-commerce site, choose a product and just pay, and then it gets delivered, right?
Right.
So for that to happen, we'll have to do lot many things, including digitizing the whole real estate inventory and making it into a SKU, right?
Right.
Where's a supply chain guy, so you would know
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that. So still some time to go, but uh, I think, as I said, this would be the last frontier and would take at least maybe next 5 to 7 years to of us even thinking of doing a complete transaction on tech without any physical involvement.
So two thoughts coming to me here. So one is since it's digitization, journey, even in any company, large or small, there are always it starts with an intent. Right? So my first question, maybe a follow up in this is that an intent in the players which who are involved in this journey to go tech? And the second thing I'll ask now only is that one of the good thing that technology does is bring transparency. And since this industry is also infamous for being very obscure and lot of non-transparent things leads to a lot of frauds, lot of challenges related to somebody selling somebody else's property. A lot of these frauds and uh, mistakes happens, right? So is tech playing any role there? So first question is on the intent, and the second is there a progress being made on that side? Because as a consumer, I feel still not very confident dealing in these transactions as against any other transaction that any e-commerce or buying gold even today is like very easy. Buying any other asset like car or any other thing, I feel more confident. But buying a real estate still gives me goosebumps, or selling there.
See, if you look at this, there are, who are the stakeholders, right? And what is their intent? So one is the home buyers or let's say consumers, right? So on their side, intent is very clear. With UPI and digitization and all those things happen, people would want to do things digitally. The second is real estate developers. So, and this is not just in India but globally, real estate developers are very slow to embrace technology, and the reasons could be manifold, right? Real estate developers, they have slightly less intent, I would say, but they are being forced because of the increasing adoption of technology by the consumers. So, like if consumers want to pay through e-payments, right? A real estate developer is forced to bring a payment gateway and not do every transaction through check or cash, right?
Mm.
So they are slowly adopting, but it would take some time. When we go to these developers and we tell them that why can't you actually put your inventory online like a book my show, right?
Correct. Correct.
People could see like in this building these are the units available and they can click and transact and all that. So Developers have obviously they are resistant to that change, right? But I feel that in every industry there is a moment which comes where there, and it happens in maybe ticketing industry, airline industry, or whatever industry which got disrupted. There is a moment which comes where the incumbents or the large players realize that it is better to go in the flow and take that step, and that would actually increase the business. So that moment is still to come in real estate. The third most important stakeholders in this industry is the agent, right? uh, so still 95% of the sale transactions and almost 70% of the rent transactions happen through agents, and these agents, they and we have like close to 100,000 registered agents with them, right? So they want to use technology, they have good intent to use technology, but no one is actually, no company or no prop tech is catering to them properly in building a proper SaaS solution, CRM solution where they can market themselves, market their listings, do branding, uh, give them transaction tools like payments and signatures and escrows, right? So we have taken a large step through this, where we are aggregating these small independent agents and giving them technology tools, because we see a clear intent there to use technology and to become more productive and more efficient in their day-to-day work.
And Vivek, interestingly, on the technology front, while it's still early steps, right? As you mentioned, digitization itself can actually massively transform the entire value chain. But talking a little bit about the advanced and next gen technologies like virtual reality or even AI, how can they actually help disrupt the space? If you can throw some light there.
So we acquired PropVR in 2021, just uh, like just before COVID, like the transaction was doing going through the COVID time, and PropVR used to visualize the interiors of a house, right?
Okay.
Where, like, if you want to do a virtual showing, right, you could, without visiting the house, you could see the interiors, right?
Mm.
Then, because of PropVR's, because of Squareyards' pedigree and relationship with the developers, we took it to the developers and we said that uh, in the COVID time, no site visits were happening, right? So why don't you actually visualize your entire project complex, apartment complex, which is an under construction building? So there is nothing on the site, anyways, right? So we would give you a tool which you can put on your website, and your you can do actually a video conferencing with your customers, where you show them the entire projects and the amenities and what is there. So this took off like hotcakes, and we sold to so many developers during COVID, and the relationship still continues. We work with the largest of developers like Prestige and Godrej and Lodha and so on and so forth, right? Uh, then we took one step further. We thought that if we could visualize interior of a house, and if we could visualize a project complex, can we visualize a city itself, right?
Oh, nice.
So we did our first POC with Dubai, right? Because a lot of photogrammetric and other data was available. So we visualize the entire city of Dubai in 3D, right? And we put our listings and data layers onto it, right? So
Okay.
users, so if you see the real estate search and discovery, like, so first there was a text-based listing, then someone came with a map view, right?
Yes.
But can you actually do a search and discovery in that 3D environment where you can walk on the street, right? And listings are popping up from the buildings and you can go inside the building. So we did that kind of visualization with Dubai, and we got a lot of interest from the Middle East developers, Dubai, Saudi, and Canada and Australia, all these guys who want to develop these, who are doing these giga projects or smart cities. So now PropVR is actually helping them building digital twins, which is not just limited to search and discovery, but we are bringing a lot of elements like climate monitoring, ESG, right, operations and maintenance onto this digital twin.
Mm.
So as we speak now, we have PropVR has close to 100 crores of pipeline,
Very
but
impressive.
is building these digital twins of cities, of ports, of uh, of travel and tourism. So, lot many new applications are coming up, and this industry is just taking on its own.
So anything for Bangalore or Indian cities also happening similar to what happened to Dubai?
Yeah, we want to do that, but the challenge is that
Data may not be.
the data is not available. Uh, so even the drone shoots are not allowed on this large scale, right? The photogrammetry data and satellite data is also very obscure. So we would do that. We would do through to your second question. We are trying through AI, which is like doing procedural modeling, right, based on a topography of a place, right? If we could procedurally generate the buildings and their textures and all. So some experimentations going on, but would take some time.
Sure. So coming to your scale, we're talking about scale. So Square Yards itself has scaled up very well and quite fast, and not just in the India, even across the globe. So can you discuss some challenges and opportunities while Square Yards was scaling up or continues to scale up?
So talking about scale, so we last year we did close to 670 crores of revenue. This year we are well on path to 2,000 crores. Uh, last 12 trailing 12 months revenue we have already crossed 100 million. So we have scaled up well, and we have faced quite number of challenges we face even today, right? Startup is always full of challenges. Every day is a new challenge. But if I want to talk about a few major ones, I think the first one I would think about is the talent, right? So Square Yards has large number of these field sales agents, right? And real estate is not an industry which is a natural choice for top talent, right? So even if I want to go to IIM Mumbai and hire for real estate sales, right, there will be very few people interested. So I think availability of talent and hiring the talent is the number one challenge. Even for tech, right? I find during the peak of like this IT resurgence after COVID, right? We found it very difficult even to hire for tech. So talent is the major challenge, right? The second is, I would say, in terms of regulatory challenges, right? Uh, so real estate industry has been facing these challenges for the past 10 years. First GST, then RERA, right? In every country that we go, we have to apply for uh, real estate licenses. Some countries have, each state has different real estate licenses, right? And there are regulations around what a agency or a brokerage house can do do they get revenue. So overcoming all these challenges becomes quite a task, right? We have operations in uh, 10 countries now, and following laws of each countries and doing revenue accounting and all those things is quite a mammoth
Quite
task.
a task, yeah.
Vivek, zooming out a bit to the overall macro view of the property space in India, it's been a market which has been fluctuating through quite a few years, right? COVID saw a lot of inventory but no buyers, but now the market has come back like anything. So there's huge demand. In fact, on the infrastructure rating as well, it's one of the strongest and growing markets in India. So, what's your view on how this market is poised for growth in the future? And how is Square Yards sort of positioned to leverage some of these opportunities?
If you look at, so first look at the overall growth story, right? Everyone is talking about India growth story, India's GDP and all, right? So what would it happen in 2030 to 2047, right? But there is a intrinsic component which is urbanization, right? So India is at 35%, 35 to 37% urbanization now, which if the India growth story continues, which we all believe will grow, will happen, right? So this urbanization will grow from 35% to around 45%. Okay, 10% growth in urbanization would happen in next 10, 15, 20 years. And this has happened in all developed countries, right? If you
Mm.
look at most developed countries in the world, almost 50 to 55% people live in urban cities. So if this urbanization has to happen, right, a lot many new houses, lot many new suburbs have to be built, right? So they are, as per our estimate, they are like India needs close to 100 million new houses, right, to be built every year. India hardly builds 5 million, right? So in the macro terms, right, keep aside the fluctuations like real estate happens in cycles, right? There was a 10-year slow cycle from 2013 to 21 probably. Now after COVID, it's on the upturn. So these cycles would happen, but forget these cycles. On a macro front, real estate would continue to grow from 10-11% of GDP to probably 13-14% of GDP. So if India is growing, urbanization is happening, right?
Hmm.
Real estate itself would become a $1 trillion industry by 2030. That is on a macro level. I believe that uh, there's like we are just scratching the surface, right? Now coming to Square Yards, we are at a vantage point where we are the largest player in one of the largest sectors of the economy, right? In one of the largest economies of the world, right?
Mm.
So
It's a good
if
quadrant.
yeah, so if we don't become a 20-30 billion dollar company or $100 billion company, we are ourselves to blame. So what we have to do is to just survive, right? Although we are growing out almost 60-70% year on year, but even if that growth slows down, if we survive uh, for next 10, 15, 20 years, right, we would there is no reason that there won't be any uh, decacons or $100 billion companies in this space, right? There has to
Yeah.
be.
Wow.
And we are at a point that we are one of the best positions companies to capitalize on this space, right? Our competitors are almost half our size, and I mean, it's a very hard space to get in for new incumbents, right? So that's what we think Square Yards would become.
Just have like one last question then for you. Our channel name is actually RealE, which is basically a very candid, a very pivotal moment in your journey, or a sort of realization moment that you have, right? Anything professional or personal that is particularly close to your heart, if you can share that moment. Uh,
Yeah, I think one of that moment happened when I visited China a few years ago, right? Um, and so there is a company in China called as Lianjia, right?
okay.
Uh, so China market was very similar to us probably 20 years ago, right? And we are like 10-15 years behind them. But there was a company in China which was doing everything in real estate, right? So they had these retail shops. They were doing sale, resale, rentals, transactions. They had the largest share of traffic, right? They had close to probably 15-20% market share of China market, right? They had hundreds and thousands of agents. So that company got IPO'd in 2020, right? And at a valuation of around 80 billion. So at that moment, we realized that if Indian market will eventually follow the urbanization and the other trends will follow China, right? So if there is such a large player, which is like almost monopolistic kind of nature, could be created in China, why can't it be done in India? And that's the whole thought process where we looked at Square Yards' overall strategy and we ventured into different spaces and we started doing all of this.
Wonderful.
So so that was one moment where I realized that this could become a very large, like we could almost create a legacy out of it,
Mm.
create a next conglomerate kind of company in India, right? Which would eventually become Tata, Birla, or Reliance. So we 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 really think about that way. No
Very
thought
nice.
of exiting or doing something else. We are just tight for life.